Trading View, very good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Charles here, FRGNT Daily Chart Analysis. Time is just approaching 10 minutes to 10 local time here in Milan, Monday, the 8th of June, 2026. Good morning to you all. So, we have a couple of conflicts in the market, but nevertheless, I have to revert to my higher time frame directional bias, which usually serves me very well indeed. So therefore, I will lead with that technical ability and seek to understand where price action is going to go, at least for the day. So higher time frame weekly order block here on the DXY, looking for a price to reject that at some stage. The higher we push into that weekly order block, the better, in my opinion, just to exhaust that pressure, that bullish pressure we're seeing on the DXY. And essentially, I'm just looking for a turnaround on that DXY. You can see here I am seeking to understand some structure points on that lower time frame. Once I refine that weekly order block down, we are currently within a refined daily order block. So again, a decent area where we could look to expect price action to potentially not so much turn around from, in my opinion. So I'm leading with technicals, but the fundamentals also are on my right shoulder, telling me that actually, based on other technical parameters, why we could actually push slightly higher on the DXY. Now, the weekly time frame, definitely not a time frame that I'm looking at basic price action and structure, but what we have to understand is at some stage we're creating lows in the market. We've since broken the most recent lower high, meaning that this potentially is a high in the market, and I'm seeking to confirm that. So after a high, what am I looking for? A higher low for a potential higher high continuation. We have now a new high in the market that was certainly not new, but a high in the market that was created on that weekly time frame. So, of course, looking to rinse and repeat that methodology, higher high, higher low, there is every potential for a higher high to be created from our current area. So as I said, a couple of technical conflicts here on the chart, which gives us a nice tentative approach to start Monday morning from. So once we start to refine those higher time frame points of interest down, you see where we are, right up at that highs are here on that daily order block refined area, 4-hour order block, where price is just beginning a potential range bound market play at the moment if I seek to highlight these most recent candles. So again, what am I looking for? A potential turnaround before I use the DXY as confluence in DXY weakness. What does that look like? You can see here, refined error on that top right-hand chart, 15-minute time frame. 4-hour order block. Price hasn't quite tapped into that area just yet. So what I'll be looking to do is see if price is going to tap into that 4-hour order block. Give me a break of most recent structure points on that 15. Pull back into the area. And then at that point, confirmation to see if the DXY is really going to roll short from that area. One thing we must be very mindful of is basic price action and structure. We have a high in the market. We've got to ask ourselves, where did that high take place from for us to have that confirmation high low? That confirmation high low is then going to be structure point for the upside type of play. Therefore, our major key area in the market where we'll be seeking to understand, can we get price to revert or break from, would be this area. So I must understand that any short confluence I take from the DXY before breaking this most recent higher low is indeed an aggressive break of structure as a result of here being our key structure point on the market in the DXY. So there's a conflict all spoken about. We can really understand where the DXY could want to look to gravitate towards, particularly if you have a look at that weekly time frame. There is also a higher time frame weekly order block up at these highs refined. You can already see I am very much so prepared up at these highs for price if price wants to gravitate towards those areas. But for now, and specifically for the next week, I need to see if price is going to look to reject this area. With that said, just run through the pairs that I've got. US dollar JPY also really in sync with the DXY, so I'll be using those as confluence to suggest whether or not we are ready for a potential turnaround on UJ. We can definitely understand why we could gain a reaction from that point based even just solely on the 4-hour time frame. Had a tremendous bearish move coming pretty much from two bearish engulfing candles that broke structure points to the left. So of course, when price wants to gravitate back up towards that area that gave us that break of structure and those bearish breaks of structure to the left hand side, we are looking to anticipate some reaction coming from that area. So definitely UJ is on the potential of lists today, but Does that mean I'm looking for immediate positions? Absolutely not. 15-minute order book refined within this 4-hour order book right there up at the highs. If I zoom out for you to have a look and understand why I'll be potentially looking from a short from that area, well, there's the move. Looking for price with the internal structure, just trend back up to that area, look for that break of structure on the 15-minute time frame before I'll be looking to get excited on a potential UJ short. AUD very unfortunate, was looking to short this for a tremendous amount of time, it seems like, just really waiting for the best areas to be taken. And it's a bit unfortunate as a result of the strength of the DXY, we didn't have any clear pullbacks for me personally to have taken a position on AU recently. But nevertheless, my key points of interest are still very much so on the market. And then the question that always arises, well, you're looking to take a short, does that mean you're going to take a long up to that short area? Absolutely not. I don't really see a reason to be looking to take a long position at the moment on AU. So it will just be for me to understand, well, if price gets up there, it's not going to be me fueling the liquidity in price to get there, but I'll definitely be happy to take a short based on the fact that we've finally broken below that bullish structure point on the daily time frame. And most importantly for me and my strategy, we have finally broken below that daily 50 EMA. So of course I'm expecting price to want to gravitate back up towards that daily 50 EMA, hopefully seek some liquidity and imbalance above it. We see it quite clearly here. That still remains available by way of 4-hour order block. Order blocks, rather, I should say, before looking to refine those areas down. And you see we're still up at these highs, refined area 15-minute point of interest, looking for pretty much an aggressive short position. But with that said, I'm going to wait for a bearish 15-minute engulfing candle and then see if I can manipulate the imbalance of that candle that would be seemingly left behind, I hope. If that isn't going to be the play of the day, then I will simply revert to 15-minute price action and understand once I get a snap of these lows, hopefully then there's going to be a 15-minute order block left up at the high that made that most recent low in the market, which would be here, for example, pull back up into the area of interest, entry criteria, and I'll look for a short continuation based on all the confluences in which of the reasons why I want to take a short position anyway. It would just be from a different area. So that's AU, definitely a good looking favorite for me in terms of short positions. What else did I discuss this morning? US dollar CAD, there is a potential there based on what our thought process is on the DXY. Nevertheless, does that mean I'm looking for short positions immediately? Absolutely not. When price isn't doing anything on your entry time frame, that means I too should not be doing anything on that entry time frame. And with that said, with the thought process that I have on the DXY, with recognition that the DXY could potentially move slightly higher into its own weekly order block, not necessarily for the fact that I believe there is a chance that the DXY could actually break that order block in its entirety anyway, I have the inclination that we're not quite ready just yet on US dollar CAD. As you can see, we're still making those bullish moves to the high. So US dollar CAD I might put to a back burner. We'll just have to see how price is going to react, potentially up at this wick imbalance from that weekly time frame. So we'll just have to see how the cookie crumbles there. But with the refined area of that daily order block, we do have at least 24 hours for price to want to gravitate above on the lower time frames, but still reject that daily order block for the day with today's price action. So we'll have a look and see if we are going to get a break of structure on US dollar CAD for a lower low, lower high, lower low continuation. With that said, much like the DXY, as a result of that extended move, we must understand the key structure points in the market and understand any short position could well be just after this high created a higher low for a potential higher high continuation. So again, without waiting for that most recent higher low to have been broken, in specifics, that would match perfectly with the fact of the performance of price respecting that 4-hour 50 made to the upside. The most desired outcome for me would be price breaking that 4-hour 50 made to the downside, of course, on or rather with a 4-hour candle closure below. And then with that said, we'd have this type of scenario where now we would have our most recent structure points broken in the market, pull back up into an area of interest before that lower low continuation trade. So again, good looking setup to present itself. We'll just see how the cookie crumbles for the rest of the day. GU's got a firm red. Quickly go over why. So GU for me, overwhelmingly, I would love to take a short position. And again, I can definitely understand why a long position could be executed in and around these areas. But much like what I've said previously, it's not necessarily going to be me to bring price towards that upside just because I have a preference of taking a short. Just as a result of having that preference for taking a short, it's just going to be one that I'm going to be looking to wait for. Most recent weekly candle below that closed below that weekly 50 MA. So my strategy suggests that the next weekly candle will look to push up towards that weekly 50 MA, perhaps find some imbalances above before rejecting that weekly 50 MA for the week. So we have 5 trading business days before we can have that. And with that said, based on the daily time frame, I don't really have any reason within where price action is currently to be looking for a long position. There are no daily order blocks until we get down to these lows, and down at those lows refined areas is definitely, as I've written, better and best type of long scenario. With that said, the analysis begins for a potential long setup on GU from just a 4-hour order block in the middle of nowhere. What I would have loved to have seen is use a 4-hour order block that could have well broken structure points towards the left hand side, meaning that after a high, it would be the higher low for a potential higher high continuation. Unfortunately, we don't have that in terms of the 4-hour time frame. Here, it certainly is an area in the market where created that most recent low in the market. So, of course, prices come back up to that area for that lower low, lower high, potential lower low continuation, meaning that this point of interest just here could well be a bit of, I won't call it a trap. Your technical analysis will definitely showcase whether or not it makes sense to take a position from there. And absolutely, based on all of that higher time frame confidence starting from the weekly, daily, and 4-hour, it's telling me that GU isn't necessarily a nice position to take from here, particularly because I have no idea when we're going to reject that weekly 50 MA. We could reject it today. We could reject it with the last 10 minutes of that weekly candle to close on Friday. Who knows? So therefore, it's a firm no for me at the moment in terms of long positions, particularly from where we are at the minute. However, if price wants to gravitate up towards these highs for a better looking short position, then based on all of that higher time frame analysis and bias, I most certainly will be interested in a short position on GU. With that said, in contrast, I wouldn't mind a EU long. Now, the reason for that is I have good enough range to get back towards that weekly 50 MA, of which I am expecting a rejection to the downside. I must say, pardon all the illustrations. Live call this morning, I get incredibly illustrative on the charts to explain my thought process and theory. But much like GU had that weekly closure below that weekly 50 MA, we have now trended down into a higher time frame order block by way of daily order block. Why is that of any importance to you, Charles? I hear you ask. Well, we were making lower lows, lower highs, and lower lows in the market. After that lower low, I was expecting after this lower low, lower high, expecting that lower low continuation, failed to find that. In fact, what we had was a break of structure to the left. Can I seek to identify any order blocks that I can contribute towards that break of structure? Here we are. Only daily order block available. Price is in that area at the moment. So if I bring your attention to the 4-hour time frame where we've looked to refine that area down, because of course we do not trade from daily order blocks. They are far too large for an intraday trader like myself. You can see refined area, we have that 4-hour order block just there to the left. Therefore, I'm looking to seek any further reaction on the lower time frame coming from that 4-hour order block on the 15-minute time frame. So if I bring the correct chart up for you, and as I say, you have to pardon all of the illustrations, we can see price came perfectly in to, I've got rid of it since, but there was a 15-minute order block to the left over here that price respected beautifully, and then as a result of price taking off, breaking intricate intricate points of structure, we now have a 15-minute order block left down at the lows, which I would be very interested to take a position from. However, I do want to see price develop ever so slightly more before I'd be interested to take a position from that area. So I want that structure point to be broken, pull back into that area of interest before looking to take a position up to that weekly 50 MA, where I will not be looking to close my position out, mind you. I will simply manage that position because I have the every inclination to understand price may want to gravitate up towards a desired position where I'd like to take a short position from, based on all of the higher time frame analysis and bias supporting a short position from refined points of interest up at these highs. So I would like to hold my long position up towards these highs, close it out, and then of course I'll be looking to execute short positions based on everything we've just discussed, and in particular the 4-hour time frame that's paid in a nice scenario in terms of range bound market. We then had price make that low, lower high, lower low continuation. I think it makes absolute sense. I've got the 4-hour 50 MA now on side for short positions, looking to seek liquidity above that area by way of 4-hour order block, refine that 4-hour order block down. Here we are, key structure point of the market, 15-minute point of interest refined. Why, Charles, does that make any sense at all? Well, as you can see, we broke structure points to the left from an area in the market. Can we locate that area? Yes, we can by way of order block selection, refine points of interest. So, of course, when price wants to gravitate back up towards those areas, I am indeed expecting, yes, I have said the word expectations, I'm expecting just a reaction from that area once I locate my entry criteria and potential breaks of structures from that area. So definitely some good positions in the market today. I won't go over everything. GCAD, definitely a good firm favorite for me today as well. So I've got GCAD to consider, Euro, US dollar to consider, potential UJ, and even AU if price wants to gravitate back up towards those desired positions for shorts. So team, I'll leave it there. That's 15 minutes of your time already. I wish you all a fruitful trading day and week ahead. All the very best in your trading journey. Thank you very much for your time, your patience, support across all the channels. It is very much so appreciated. Do take care. All the very best. Charles.